My wife and I had been together for 12 years, 8 of them married, and we have a 6-year-old daughter.
Here is how I found out about the affair. Honestly, I'm glad I came to know about the affair. I now feel numb and don't feel anything for my wife anymore, who was just using me for money. I guess I make 3 times as much as she does. My only concern is my daughter. Here is how I came to know about it. For the last 5 months, I had been working like crazy, lots of overtime and weekend work to save money for her father, who was supposed to undergo an operation later next month. The stress from work and all made me irritated that day, and seeing my wife giggling while texting on the bed, rather than chatting or asking me about how I was doing, made me snap. I grabbed her phone, but sadly it was locked. So I asked her for the password, to which she vehemently refused and told me I was going insane. I then asked again, or told her I would take the phone to her parents' home and get it unlocked somehow and read the contents in front of them. Her parents are very religious. If they knew she had an affair, they wouldn't even waste a breath in thinking about abandoning her. She stood silent and told me that she wanted out of the marriage. I still held on to the phone and told her that if she told me the truth, I would not tell her parents. At which point, she admitted that she had been having an affair for the past 2 months with a coworker. I still asked her for the password and finally got it out of her. I told her to go out of the room, and I immediately locked the room and read the messages. I found that it had been going on for about 4 months, twice as long as she had told me. She couldn't tell the truth even after getting caught. I connected the phone to my laptop and downloaded the entire chat history. I still don't know what made me do that, but I'm glad I did. I then invited her in and asked what she wanted to do now. She told me she wanted to get divorced, so I told her to wait for a week and then decide again. I reminded her to think about our daughter and that if she still wanted to get divorced, I would give her one, but I would take my daughter's custody with me. When I asked her the reason for her affair, she told me that I was not spending enough time with her and was too focused on work. To hell with that. The reason I had been working like a donkey and not having enough time even for myself was for her father's surgery. When I asked her why she hadn't told me about this earlier, that she wanted more time, she told me she didn't get the chance. I wonder how she couldn't say something when we were still eating breakfast and staying in the same house. When I asked her if she didn't know the reason why I was working all that time, she just stood silently, as if it didn't even concern her. She had a "so what" kind of face. Yesterday, she told me she still wanted a divorce and wanted our daughter with her. I told her that was not going to happen, as I had already saved all her chat history and would use it in court to gain custody. I made it clear to her that I would not let her take our daughter away from me. I made it clear to her that I would never leave my daughter. She was crying. I left the room to go to my daughter's room. After that, I also told her to have her boyfriend fund her father's surgery, as I was not going to pay for it. I stopped working overtime last week and started spending more time with my daughter. Honestly, I will still pay for the surgery with whatever I have saved up until now. I am an orphan and I love them like my own parents, but I only said that to make her suffer. At that point, she started apologizing and begged me to pay for the surgery. She said she would end her affair and work on our marriage. However, I no longer believe her. I know this marriage will fall apart as soon as the surgery is done. I am considering going ahead with the divorce, but I will take custody of our child. According to state laws, there is no need to pay alimony in case of an affair. As for child custody, I believe I can gather proof of the affair and use it as leverage to pay for her father's surgery. My friends and my lawyer friend all agree that I should go ahead with the divorce. My lawyer friend has assured me of gaining custody. I want to know if I am making the right decision by going with the divorce. I am mostly worried about how it will affect our daughter and how I should break the news to her family. I do not want to lie to them. They have been like parents to me. Update: I met with my wife's parents today and told them about my decision to divorce and the events that led to it. I am glad I had the chance to speak with them today because at first they refused to let me inside their house. My wife had told them that I was unfaithful and harassing her and our daughter. Thanks to her brother, who also lives with them, I was able to explain my side of the story. I gave them time to process everything, and I am currently waiting in the guest room with my daughter and niece who are napping. Update 2. I consulted with a lawyer who assured me that with proof of adultery, I can gain custody of my child and not have to pay alimony. I also get to keep all of my belongings. He suggested finding more information about the affair partner and hiring a private investigator, as it may be helpful in the case. He advised me to be prepared. I agreed, as he is knowledgeable and will handle the private investigator. He informed me that if we start early next week, we could have a court hearing within 2 to 3 weeks. Hey, OP. Yes, I believe you are making the right decision. Your wife is cheating. She only changed her mind about the divorce when she realized the consequences. I doubt she will genuinely try to work on our marriage and is only acting this way to get me to pay for the surgery. I think it is her responsibility to tell her parents about the situation. I also suggest sitting down with her parents and explaining that due to recent events, you are unsure about paying for the surgery and need time to think about it. This will help you see if they truly see you as family, regardless of your financial situation. I don't want you to pay for it and then have them treat you differently because you are no longer married to their daughter. I wish you the best of luck with your situation, OP. Now let's get into today's second story. My wife and I have been together for 7 years and married for 4. We have a great marriage and 2 children. We were each other's one and only sexual partners. Last week, she ended up going home with a coworker on Friday night, lying and saying it was a work function. Specifically, she texted me around 7:30 that a work function suddenly came up and she had to go. I was a bit upset since we had planned to watch a movie at home, and she canceled without notice, but I saw no reason to mistrust her. She said she would be back by 9:30, and I was okay with that. However, she ended up coming back at 11:30 in hysterics. She was crying and mumbling and admitted she slept with her coworker. There was a lot of anger and crying on my end, and we spent the whole night discussing it. She said that her coworker, a younger guy who had been persistently flirting with her for weeks, she did not tell me about this. Her reasoning was that it would have never led to something anyway, and he showered her with compliments, finally breaking down her barriers. They had sex at his place 3 times in 2 hours. She said she felt like she missed out on something by only being with one sexual partner, and so did I if I didn't cheat, and wasn't thinking rationally. She said she got caught up in the moment, for weeks it seems, and she never planned to cheat on me. She said being treated like a sexy, desirable woman by a young, handsome guy only clouded her thinking further. I'm not so sure what she meant by this, since we have plenty of sex, at least 3 times a week, as well as frequent date nights. I asked her to show me her phone, email, and media right there, and there was no sign of him at all. They never spoke outside of work. I thought she might be lying and covering her tracks, but I verified this in the following days and contacted my service provider and used a text recovery program, and they never had any contact outside of work. My wife is saying it was a one-time mistake and will never happen again. She decided to quit work, handed in her notice already, and also outed the coworker due to the no fraternization policy and is searching for another job. She also promised to give me complete open access to all her media whenever I want, and is pretty much begging me not to leave her. She has apologized and shed more tears than can be counted. I wanted to stay away from her for a while, but my kids need me, so I told her to give me my space in the house while I think things through. My wife wants to do couples counseling and therapy, and wants to pay for it herself, so as not to burden me. She's taking full blame for the cheating and assures me I did not contribute to it at all. I never thought I would be the type to consider forgiving cheating. I always thought I would distance myself and go no contact without hesitation. I'm trying to determine the pros and cons of this. Hey OP, to me there are some actions that remorse just doesn't cover. It's not just about your marriage. She made the sober decision that she was perfectly willing to risk throwing her entire family life into flux just to feel hot and desired. She decided that her children's stable two-parent upbringing was well worth that risk. And then the final knife to the heart is that she made that same sober decision 2 more times in a few hours. To me, that middle finger to my kids would be unforgivable. You do not owe her a second chance for forgiveness. She will never be worth it, considering that she destroyed your family. I wish you the best of luck, OP. Now let's get into today's final story. Hello, community. This is the first time I've used a forum for this situation. In fact, this is the first time I've used Reddit at all. I came on here to find a sense of community, and I guess I have been struggling with my wife's infidelity for over a year now. I don't want to bring it up with friends or family because I don't want to burden them. I've been looking for a place where I can discuss the problems with people who have experienced similar situations and share them with others in a way that won't come across as pathetic. So thank you for welcoming me to your community. I hope to find some value in my life and to contribute some quality to someone else's life. Here is the background. I'm 28 years old and have been married to this woman for 7 years. We have a child who is 5 years old now. I love and adore my child with all my heart, and a part of me still loves my wife. On Memorial Day of 2019, I had to work, but my wife had the day off. We had spent the evening before on a date. We went to the bar, had a few drinks, talked, walked, and had sex. Things seemed great. I went to work the following day, Memorial Day. My daughter was at my in-laws because she had spent the night, so my wife and I could go on a date the night before. When I came home, my wife had gone shopping, picked up our child, and purchased a new car seat for her. We got home late and put our child to bed. My wife went outside after our child was in bed to smoke. I sat on the couch because I don't smoke. She came in, we got ready for bed, and when we got into bed, she said we needed to talk. She told me she had kissed someone that day. She hung out with a guy she knew, and they made out. In addition to making out with him, she was in love with her friend's husband. She claimed she and her friend's husband hadn't had any physical connection, swore that she never did, and still says she didn't, although I assume that is a lie. She said she was going to live with her parents for a while. We talked all night. The next day, she went to a pre-planned concert with a friend. She saw the guy she had kissed again and ended up spending the night with him. I was devastated. I felt so utterly horrible about myself. She ended up moving out and living with her parents. She stayed there for about 7 weeks. For about 7 weeks, she continued to see this guy, but bounced back and forth between wanting to be single and making up stories for her family. This party went on with ups and downs, including periods of sexual activity and abstinence for 7 weeks. However, last year, around this time, I reached my breaking point. One night, she was supposed to come over while I was at a baseball game with my daughter. She was supposed to get what she wanted and stick to what she couldn't get, so I could set it up for her to pick it up. When I got home, she hadn't been there. I called to ask her why not, and she said it was because it was difficult. I lost it. I told her I didn't care if it was hard for her or for the things she was involved with. I told her to come over the next day and stick to what she wanted, or I would throw it away and keep what I wanted. I left the divorce papers on the coffee table for her to find when she did come over. She came over and stuck to her belongings, but the mood changed. Suddenly, she wanted to work on things. We made progress, but there were a few more bumps with this guy. She gave him some of his things through the mail and cut off communication with him. She also started seeing her own therapist, and we began marriage counseling. For the first 8 or 9 months, things went well. I was genuinely happy to have my family and her back. We spent time talking, and she told me about 4 guys with whom she had some form of inappropriate relationship during our marriage. Not all of them were physical, but she spent time with them while I was working and talked to them at least. I told her I was glad she was being honest and that I wanted to try to make things work. However, things have become rocky. We are a year away from the day I found out about her infidelity, and I find myself constantly going back and forth about what I want to do. Lately, things have been really difficult. Our sex life has slowed down, we don't go on dates as much, and the lack of trust is starting to get to me. She rarely initiates texting or calls, and I have been the one to initiate sex for the past month or so. It just doesn't feel right or good. I have been thinking about what I want in my life, and I realize that I might be holding on to this relationship because she meets some of my needs. However, I don't think she is capable of meeting the more important ones. The lack of trust and respect are major issues that I don't know if I can overcome. While the sex is good, it's not enough for me to want to stay in this relationship. I keep thinking about my future and have come to the realization that I don't necessarily see her as an essential part of it. If I were able to move on from this, with or without her, I could focus on what I need to be successful. The constant worry and fear of things going wrong, along with her inability to address the issue or take initiative in improving our relationship, are exhausting me and holding me back from reaching my full potential. I have been thinking about what I want in my life, and I believe I might be holding on to this relationship because she meets some of my needs. Meeting some of my needs, but I don't think she is capable of meeting the more important ones. I don't worry that I'll be alone forever. Last month I joined Tinder and Bumble and met a few girls. I set up a date with a beautiful girl and was texting a couple more. However, when the night came for the date, I decided I couldn't follow through. I canceled and deleted all the numbers and the apps. I have been wondering why I feel like I need confirmation. I think there are some needs not being met in my relationship. So, the bad part was that I came close to being a jerk and cheating on her, but it also showed me that I would be okay if she wasn't here to fulfill my physical needs. But I am worried about my child. I am worried about who my wife will bring around. How will this affect my child? Even with all of this being said, I would still miss my wife, but I almost feel like she is better suited as a friend with benefits for me. This all stems from the lack of trust, communication, and enthusiasm. Hey OP, your wife doesn't respect you, and you can't trust someone who doesn't respect you because their desires will always be more important to them than you. You should demote her from wife to friend with benefits at best and go through with the divorce, since you still have to deal with her for the child. However, it's probably best to just co-parent and move on with your life. If you haven't had an STD test, you should get one. You might also want to consider a paternity test. I wish you the best of luck. Thank you for taking the time to listen to today's stories. I hope you all enjoyed them. Please feel free to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Take care, everyone.